Welcome back to this episode of Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and I am actually really excited about this topic. We both were when we decided this was the topic for this week, but the title of this episode, as of this minute, it might change, I guess, but are your goals actually preventing you from seeing results? So this is honestly, this might end up being broken up into two episodes because we have so much on this topic that I think can really change your perspective on just the way that you view health, weight loss, honestly, any like goal, personal goal, career goal, anything that you want to set. This is all encompassing for those. So I'm going to let Jess kick this off, but we have lots to share, and this is going to be probably one of my favorite episodes. So I'm excited.
All righty. So, are your goals holding you back from getting results? And I'm going to kind of flip that question on its head. A lot of people's goals are focused primarily on results, and that in itself is the problem. So, if we are looking at outcome-based um, goals, like, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds in a couple weeks, or I want to fit in this dress by this wedding in 3 weeks. Um, what ends up happening oftentimes is we see people kind of fall off of the behaviors that are required to get there because they're so obsessed with this outcome, as opposed to the people who shift their focus to the inputs. You know what? I'm going to start getting to the gym 3 times a week, no matter what, for the next 6 months. Those people, not only do they end up seeing better results, they end up learning to enjoy the process and they become the person that gets the outcomes that they want. So it's really, they end up changing their identity. They end up changing their habits. They end up layering on these things over and over the course of days and months and years, to get way better results than the people who are only outcome focused. So this is something that we do a lot with our clients. Like, we have our clients start with a couple habits a day. And sometimes people are like, after a week or two, they're like, wait, am I doing it right? Because is this enough? It doesn't feel really hard. And it's like, no, that's great. We want to meet you where you are and push you just a little bit beyond that until this feels like the new norm. And then once this is the new norm, we're going to add another thing on it. And after a year or two, like, we ask in our check-in form, what's something you're really proud of this last week? And a lot of times the clients that we've had for like 2+ years are like, I don't even know what to put for this anymore because now this is just who I am. Like, it's not even intentional anymore. It's just the
Just
person they're
win
becoming.
itself. That's the thing to
Yeah.
be anyway.
Yeah. So, again, on the flip side of that, sometimes if we have one column that says what's something you'd like to improve upon. Every now and then I'll have a client who, and usually it's a newer client. We haven't gotten to that place yet where they're focusing on the inputs. But I'll have a client every now and then say, the thing I want to work on is I want to start losing more weight. And we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We need to focus on your inputs. And if we get really, really consistent with the inputs, you bet those physique changes are going to come as a side effect. But it does you no good, physical or mental health wise, to focus on the outcomes because there's so many different variables that can impact that week to week. So, going to last week's episode that you guys probably already listened to, we talked about how the scale can fluctuate from a lot of different things. So I'll
Mhm.
use that as a basic example here. But like, if somebody is bummed out because they didn't lose weight this week, that might not be a reflection at all of body fat. They might have lost 2 pounds of body fat, but the scale's the same because it's the week before their period and they had a high sodium dinner last night, so they're retaining water. Now, if they're only focused on that outcome and not just their consistent behaviors, they might say, okay, I'm going to throw in the towel. This isn't working. And now, 6 months from now, they're not going to be in the same place as that person who's focusing on the inputs. So, input based goals and becoming the person who can achieve those results you want, as opposed to results oriented goals.
Yeah. So like as you and you should have a result goal, right? Something in mind, something to work towards. And I think it's important to basically when you have that, you're kind of like reverse engineering, right? Like, okay, what are the things that you're going to do to get that outcome? And then that's kind of where you shift your focus. So you set that goal and that's okay to have, but we don't want to be super attached to that and let that dictate how we show up or how we don't show up, or when we throw in the towel or whatever it is, have that, and that's okay. But then we reverse engineer, and like Jess said, what's the process? What are the inputs required? And then we're going to shift into a little bit more of what the whole point of this episode is really.
And I think talking about motivation, I think that that's a good thing too, is like, if you're only focused on that outcome versus the person you're becoming, a lot of times we're real motivated when we see that scale drop or when we see that like tangible little dopamine hit, whatever that is. Maybe it's the first week of a new program, so you're excited because it's something new. That motivation is not something that people who are successful rely on. It's it a bonus? Yeah. Sometimes motivation hits and I'm like, wow, I feel great. I'm really excited. So maybe I'll push extra in the gym today. But there's plenty days that I am not feeling motivated, but this is just now part of my routine. It's a habit, just like brushing my teeth. If you want a particular outcome, you have to reverse engineer and say, what's the thing that's going to get me that outcome? And show up consistently, even on the days you don't feel like doing it, right? Like you're making a choice because you like the consequence that comes with that choice, not because it's a motivating thing at all times. So, like our clients, a lot of times we are working with women who have severely dieted or restricted and yo-yo dieted for years and years. So usually the first few months with them are focused on adding food and adding strength and adapting their metabolism back up to higher calories. During that time, we will not see weight loss. If we're adding calories, you will not lose weight. Now, are we putting on muscle, hopefully? So they might actually lose inches. Their body composition might change, but the expectation is not weight loss. And when you're not seeing those results on the scale, or if that was your expectation, it can feel like, oh no. But you know what's really cool is these women are now learning that those inputs are like those inputs are now becoming that base layer of habits. So by the time we do get to a deficit phase, it feels like nothing. They're like, yep, I always work out 3 to 4 times a week. That's just part of my life.
Those inputs are very much worth celebrating too, right? Like they think,
Mhm.
oh, the scale hasn't moved, and it's like, hold on, there is so much to be like celebrate and be proud of up to this point. Like you've been working out 4 times a week for the last 4 months, and you were told me you were super inconsistent before you started, right? So I think that's something that's often overlooked, and you throw in the towel, like, oh, I'm not seeing progress because this piece of plastic on the floor said that you didn't, right? But there's so many other things to look at.
And there's a ton of short-term results that are positive that we just haven't been conditioned to look for yet. So like every day that I work out, that day my mood is better than the days I don't work out. So like let's shift our attention to those little wins along the way. How good do I feel? My sleep is better on those days. Look for all those other wins in terms of how you feel, because then you're going to want to do the thing more too, versus thinking, I know I should get to the gym because I want to lose 5 pounds. It's like, no, no, no. Instead, like look at how just going to the gym improves your life, because then you're going to want to go to the gym versus this I shouldn't on and off the wagon deal.
Yeah, I did a training one time, and it's something I wish I could remember the book. I'll put it in the caption of the podcast episode notes if I find it. But people often approach, making a lifestyle change or losing weight or whatever it is by thinking, okay, I gotta find this motivation. I gotta find, right? You hear the words like find your why, like ugh, like find your, it's not find motivation and then you take action and you get the results. It's take action consistently over and over and over, then you get the results. And guess what? You're motivated after that because you're getting the results by doing the things that you promised you would do and seeing them through, right? Now you have more confidence, more trust in yourself. You've started to evolve into this person, and now you are reaping the benefits of the actions. But you can't go in looking for, people look for this like big promise, like, okay, if I do this, am I going to lose 20 pounds in the next 6 days? And it's like, no, 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 that's not the point here. And that's exactly why you're failing. So take action, and then the motivation, like it'll be there, right? You'll be motivated because you have results and you feel good, but it won't be something that you need to rely on anymore.
And like your physical brain structure changes when you do stuff that you don't want to do. So, and your neural pathways, the way that your willpower works, you can strengthen like a muscle if you practice it over and over and over again. It becomes a more natural thing. That's how habits are built. So physically, you're changing your brain anytime you do something that you're like, I don't want to do it, but I said I'm going to do it. There's also this psychological piece of you now believe you are a person who sticks to things you say you're going to do.
Yes.
So no matter what that thing is, it could be as little as I'm going to eat one apple or a piece of fruit every day for the next month. It could be so small like that. But now you have this self-efficacy. Next time you set a goal, you're more likely to stick to that goal because you believe you're somebody who shows up for yourself.
Yep, 100%. And I think like so many people who go on these journeys and maybe they get results, but they can't sustain them. no matter how they achieve them, right? Even with the most restrictive approaches or diets or whatever, or, why weight loss injections even can backfire for so many, because these behaviors, right? You're in this position of, I don't like how I feel. I don't like how I look. I don't like all of these things, right? But your behaviors and actions got you to that point, right? Who you are and your identity and the things that you do and the decisions that you make on a daily basis got you to this point. So we can't just slap a band-aid on, whether it's a weight loss injection or Optavia or just a 1,200 calorie diet for the umpteenth time, right? We can't just slap that band-aid on and get the result and then say, okay, I'm done. Because guess what? You're not going to sustain, because you didn't take action. You didn't do, change your behaviors and change all of those things that are required to sustain that result. So you were restrictive, and yeah, you slashed calories and cut carbs and worked out 6 days a week and burnt yourself out. But if you can't sustain that, then what's the point? Your results are just going to dissipate, right? They're not going to last. So in
There's
order,
a lot of research about people who have won the lottery, and that
yeah,
correlates to this so much. So it's like there is yeah, you certainly can try to get these results with some quick fix way, but the likelihood of you sustaining it is like slim to none. And that goes for somebody who wins the lottery or somebody who loses weight on freaking Biggest Loser. It's like they lose all this stuff. They don't have the base habits built. They go back into their normal environment and they spend all their money. Fitness is and health is the exact same way. So like anytime somebody tells us they want to lose a lot of weight or they want to fit in a pant size or whatever within a certain quick amount of time, we ask them, okay, would you rather do that or would you rather keep it off? And they're like, well, both. Well, both. Okay, well, what if both aren't possible? Because usually both are not possible. Okay. It didn't take you like you've been dieting on and off for 25 years and you think in 6 months you're going to lose it all and then be able to keep it off for the rest of your life. Like it's probably going to take longer to reprogram your brain and those habits.
yeah, 100%. And, when we look at the people that we you know, aspire to be, or we want the things that they have, or we want to look the way that they look, right? And I think this is, people talk about social media being a highlight reel. And I think that's true to, a lot of degrees, because even for me, like I don't post that I've been doing the same 2 leg days every week for the last 9 weeks. Like that's not fun. If every single week I'm posting the same shit, people are going to be like, okay, what else do I do? Right? I'm bored. And that's the difference in successful people versus not. I don't, successful people don't have this like bottomless pit of motivation. I have days where I wake up tired and I have days where I don't feel like it. I went to the gym last Friday, pulled up in the parking lot and sat there and I was like, just go. It's so busy. You can't even find a parking space. Why are you here? Like I had every reason. Nobody was stopping me. I could have just turned and left the parking lot and been done. But I parked, I waited, and I did it anyway, because that's who I am. And I know that my future self on Saturday morning would have been like, why didn't you just fucking work out yesterday? And now you have to take time out of your weekend to do this workout that you were at the gym to do, right? So like I'm always planning ahead in that regard, even if my present self isn't fully showing up the way that I would want her to, right? And I think that's the difference. It's so like corny, but it's just you can't rely on motivation, and you have to just show up and be that person and, you know, move forward even when it feels really fucking hard and annoying and you don't want to do it.
And we haven't even touched on yet the fact that you can get the physical result outcomes in super unhealthy ways. So
Yeah.
like when we say focus on on your healthy inputs and the physical results will come, it doesn't work the other way around. Like, yes, some people could lose weight quickly. Most people wouldn't keep it off. But in order to lose weight really quickly, oftentimes there are health consequences that you could be facing in order to do that. So focusing on that results outcome can make you less physically and less mentally healthy as well. And again, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. Some people might lose it a little bit faster in a healthy way because maybe they just haven't ever exercised before. So now they're losing, maybe they have a lot more body fat to lose, so they lose quicker, right? But if your goal is just quick weight loss, like, yeah, you could starve yourself, you could add a ton of cardio. You're probably losing a significant amount of muscle mass in that weight loss. You're probably feeling pretty restricted when you go out with friends and could lead to some mental health issues if you're starting to obsess over all the things you should and shouldn't have and can't and whatever. When you're dieting, like all those things need to be looked at in the big picture of health also. because if you are in some fit, and Jill, like I believe both of us can speak to this, but especially you coming from the bodybuilding space, like though many of these people that you see that are their absolute leanest in body composition are not in a mentally well place to
No.
be at that lean, unhealthy amount of low body fat. So what would you rather compromise your health just for this quick result, or would you like to have really good health and get the results? It's just going to take you some time, and you're going to become a better person while doing it.
Yeah. And, it's actually so crazy. Like when I was in bodybuilding, it was, head first, I needed this thing to work towards, right? And training for life and health is a very different thing than training for a wedding or an event or a bodybuilding show. And my actions that I took every single day were solely based on what a judge who wasn't even qualified in any manner to say the things that they say, what a judge told me I looked like compared to the other 6 to 50 women standing next to me, right? Like, did I look the best or do I have shit to work on? And it's a dopamine hit, right? Like major, because I worked months and months and months, which not to say, it was hard work, but I worked for months to stand on stage for 30 seconds and for someone to tell me if I was worthy of a trophy or not. Like, that's a whole other episode. But, I used to take laxatives if the scale went in the wrong direction, or I would starve myself because I was on a 3-day binge bender prior to that. And all of my actions were just constantly like offsetting my bad decisions. And no wonder I ended up binge eating for years. I was absolutely miserable mentally, emotionally. I, was taking antidepressants because I didn't know how to function. And that took me a really long time. And once I stepped away from the bodybuilding stage, not only did I gain over 20 pounds in a matter of a month, which is so unhealthy for my body, but my cycle was wrong. So I had all of the health consequences that come with that. And now that took me 3 years, right, to get to that breaking point. So everyone's is different. Somebody could diet for 8 weeks and have enough. Somebody could do it for 2 years, right? Or three. So that took me 3 years. But then after that, from 2016 to probably 2018. So it took me a good 2 years to find myself again and to train for health. And my body fought me really hard. And that was 2 years of being overweight, uncomfortable. I hated the gym. I avoided it at all costs. I would go to CrossFit for a month and I was a power lifter for 5 minutes. I was trying to do all of these things to like find my place. And I was like, I got to compete. I got to do this thing. And it's like, no, I actually just needed to take care of myself and be healthy. And that was
Stop.
a long 5 years, right? To really just find that like inner peace and just do things because I want to feel good. And honestly, even sometime after that into 2019, I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. So it's always up and down. And obviously it's not about being perfect, but we have to like grow and change and evolve to get that result. And now I can maintain things so effortlessly, when back then I had to work really freaking hard and be absolutely perfect 7 days a week, or I was a failure in my mind and on the stage, everything. So it's so different.
Sorry, I had a really good thought and then I lost it.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about in terms of really the premise of this episode, right? We talked about like having these
Oh,
input.
sorry. Can we pause and then clip this back?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go based off of what you just said.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to go later into this episode. We're going to go into like, okay, what are some actual inputs you can focus on? But because Jill is talking about like training 6 days a week, 7 days a week, being a competitor with herself, being a go-getter, and like thriving on being type A. I was similar. And my motivation for a long time, like I competed in Miss Delaware and I had visible abs all the time. And I thought that was so cool because I'm so fit and healthy. I'm putting that in air quotes if you're just listening to me, because I was very restrictive with myself. And again, now I can maintain and enjoy my life and enjoy social stuff. But anyway, if you are somebody who has worked out a ton and you're like, well, duh, I hit my proteins every day. Duh, I do go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. And maybe these inputs that we're going to talk about later, the basics, aren't quite the thing for you. I want to share what helped me get away from chasing a result and shift myself towards focusing on my inputs. So I went through a phase in training because I'm an in-person personal trainer, where I started, and it wasn't intentional. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to stop focusing on my weight and my body fat percentage. It wasn't intentional like that. But I decided, you know what? If I'm going to coach people really well, I need to get really stinking good at the skills of back squatting and deadlifting. And so I started to shift my focus to how good can I get at my lifts and my performance. So if you're somebody who has been working out for a long time or has been eating fairly healthy for a long time and you're not sure where to start, maybe rather than having maybe don't weigh yourself, rather than having weight goals, or rather than having muscle mass or body fat goals, if you're in a healthy body, start shifting your focus to mobility or to the skill of specific performance things or to how strong you can get in certain lifts. If you can shift your focus to that, what ended up happening for me personally is my body composition changed over the course of a year and a half without me trying at all. And it was because I became better and better. I got deeper in my range of motion in my squats. I really focused on my hip mobility. So I wasn't hurting anymore after heavy lifting days. Shifting your focus to skills, I think can be a really good one to detach people who tend to be competitive, because it's like giving you a new competition. My competition with myself is how deep can I get my range of motion in a healthy way that feels good on my hips. So you're still competing, but it's for something not physical outcome related. It's
Yeah.
like every week, can I compete with my previous week self just by getting a hair lower in my squat or whatever that thing is for you?
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this with Anthony the other day. I was saying like even I'm in a deficit right now and I was like, gosh, I don't know what it is. Like I feel like every time I go to the gym, I'm like able to increase weights and I feel so strong and so good. And I say deficit, I use that term loosely. I'm not eating 2,100 fucking calories, but I'm still hungry, by the way, in case
But for
anyone.
you, it's a deficit because
Yeah.
your new norm is high.
Yeah.
That's possible for you guys. It's possible.
And he was saying how he felt very stagnant in the gym. And I was like, are you tracking your weight still? Because I look at every single time I start a lift in my Trainerize app, I go in and I'm like, okay, it's, bench press today. What did I do last week? And I'm like, okay, cool. I did this weight with 10 reps. I'm going to either increase my reps or I'm going to add 5 to 10 pounds onto that and just see how far I can go. And if I get it on the first set, that's my next 3 sets unless I absolutely fail. And I do that every single lift every week, unless I go into a lift where, maybe it's toward the end of my lift and I'm a little bit more tired. So I will actually adjust and look at my whole workout and say, okay, increase this the last 2 weeks. I'm going to like try to increase this one this week. Right. So I always go in with the mindset of, I got to increase my weights from last week, no matter what. On every single thing, I always try 5 pounds heavier. And that's you, but you have to have that data, right? You have to be tracking. If you think you can remember them all, you're crazy. But I think that's so
Well,
important.
I do it different from you. So I think
Yeah.
that this is fun to talk about. Now, it's taken me a long time of tracking, right? But
Yeah.
every month or every 6 weeks, I usually do 5 to 6 week phases. Every phase, I pick a new focus that I'm going to get better at. So I don't necessarily, and I know my workouts are very consistent in terms of like, okay, I'm always doing 2 deadlift variations a week. I'm always doing 2 squat variations a week, whatever. But if I start to feel like, especially postpartum, my rounded shoulders, like from nursing babies, I felt like my posture was a little bit weak. So I would spend the next 6 weeks really focusing on, okay, I'm going to do kettlebell windmills and see how open I can get my chest through that to help my thoracic spine mobility. Maybe the following 6 weeks, I'm working on some sort of performance thing because it's been a really long time since I've been able to sprint or do a box jump or something. So no matter what the goal is, I'm competing with myself in beating my own time or speed or whatever. It doesn't have, like, you guys don't need to expect yourself to go heavier every single week, but you have to progressively overload if you want to change your body.
Yeah.
Whether
Absolutely.
that means listening to your body and doing a perceived rate of exertion of like, okay, I was absolutely working at a 9 out of 10, I can't go any harder. Or if it means physically documenting it. When it comes to weights, I recommend you physically document it for at least your first 5 years, honestly.
Mhm.
But we need to be progressing on something if you want to see the outcome. So it's not just showing up consistently is number one. That is the most important thing. Whatever program, you could have the best program in the world. If you don't do it, it's ineffective, right? So one
Right.
is you need to have something that you're going to be consistent with. Two is don't just check the boxes. challenge yourself, because adding that stressor on your body is the hard thing. If you show up and do the same old thing just because you're in the routine of it, you're going to adapt to it and not get the benefits.
Mhm. And that doesn't mean you need to do a different workout every time or
Mhm.
trick your muscles or whatever you interpret that as. It just means that you have to increase volume, right? Progressive overload in some capacity. And that's a great point. I'm very much in a season of rebuilding strength. So this is so good for me and this headspace because I haven't been able to be in this in like 2 years. So honestly, it's so crazy going through this reverse in this now deficit for these last 8, 9 months, whatever it's been. I have solely focused on increasing my weights this entire time. And like, I've texted Jess and I've texted my other coaches, like, is this movement look okay? And I'm feeling pain here. What do I need to focus on? So then I'll introduce mobility of certain things, right? But it's very exciting to me to focus on strength in this manner because I haven't been able to in a really long time just because of hormones and other shit that I had to focus on. But I like when I do something, I'm very much all in. So naturally, I'm like, I got to do this. So yeah,
And
I think,
I'm in a season of maintenance. I'm in a season of, I feel really good in my body, and my priority right now is like, we're fixing up our forever house that we're about to move into. And I have two
yeah,
little kids who one of them doesn't sleep great. Like, so we're in different seasons of life.
yeah,
I'm still working out 2 to 4 times a week, like average 3 times a week, on a bad week, 2 days a week. I'm still showing up consistently, and I'm still pushing my muscles every single time I'm in the gym. Like, building muscle, especially for women, as we get older, our muscle wants to pare down. Okay. So, like, adding more muscle mass is key critical at all phases of your lifting journey. Always go heavier, always push yourself.
yeah. Yeah, and it's the changes in my physique are just a byproduct of being consistent. And this applies for however you're approaching this, but you lose weight and you feel confident, you have energy, and you want all these things, but you get them if you commit to the things that like a fit person does, or whoever has the thing that you want does, right? You can't torture yourself and hate yourself to a number on the scale, right? You can't think and approach this of like, well, I'll feel so confident when this happens, or I'll be happy when I fit in these pants, and then hate yourself the whole time and pick yourself apart and talk about how awful your body is and all these things, because I promise you, you are never going to get to a place of peace internally, of happiness with your body, of confidence. And I am not like, well, this is probably controversial, but the body positivity movement, I support that if you are actively doing something to make a change and feel good about yourself. So yes, you should be proud of yourself along the way and celebrate wins as you're working towards your ultimate goal, and that's fine, but you cannot hate yourself there. You have to shift to these inputs and shift to celebrating these wins and evolving as a person and evolving your identity, which we're going to talk about now. Those are the things that are going to get you results like 10x. Like, it's going to be so much easier for you to get the results, and you're not going to have to torture yourself, and you're not going to feel like you have to torture yourself either.
So, in shifting your identity, a lot of it is about the way you speak to yourself. So, I agree with what Jill just said. I hope that every woman that's listening to this right now can love their body for what it does right now, and also work towards becoming a healthier,
Yep.
better version of themselves, because you're going to feel better. With that said, we got to lose identities that don't serve us. So, this might sound woo woo for anybody who's on my team. They know like, anybody
Not the
who's a
vibe.
mindset, if you're a mindset coach, like, I'm sorry, but like, I can't with your Instagrams. And again, I'm like went to school for psychology. I love being able to use tools to help shift our brain. But I'm not like, oh, put it into the universe and it'll happen. With that said, you can change the way that your brain works, and your behaviors will follow. This is a physical, biological thing, that if you are speaking to yourself like a person who, you know what, I always overeat when I'm stressed, your actions are gonna follow. You're gonna continue to overeat when you're stressed, because you're saying that that's the person that you are. So shift your language. Write in a journal with some I am affirmation statements. This is not like some magical thing that you become that person, but you start to say it day after day after day in the present tense, and say, you know what? I'm somebody who fuels my body because I feel better when I eat well. If you say that every single day, next time you have this choice of this food versus that food, that's going to be rattling in the back of your head saying, I'm a person who fuels my body because it makes me feel better when I eat well. Keep
Yes.
challenging those thoughts that are self destructive to help change your identity. You do not
Yeah.
have to be the person that historically you've been. So let's stop talking like that person. Don't make excuses based on, well, I'm just somebody who does this. Well, my family always does this. Well, I've always like, okay, you don't have to do it that way anymore. Let's stop setting that as the expectation. Let's set a higher expectation of yourself.
Yeah.
It's like a kid or like a boss who has employees. Set high standards for yourself, and you're probably going to be more likely to live up to those standards as
Mhm.
opposed to expecting the worst from yourself.
And I think like we don't even realize it's happening, but we all evolve and our identities evolve and change over time, sometimes positively and sometimes negatively, but it happens based on like life experience and things that we go through that you don't even realize. So you can very easily consciously detach from an identity that you hold about yourself at any given moment. It's not going to be instant, but it takes time. And I think it's also important to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that support these new identities in the direction that you want to go. And, you know, like I've evolved so much. And when I look at like my relationships and my friendships, I draw in such different energy. And
Such
honestly,
better. You just have so many better people around you these
yeah,
days. I don't know what it is.
yeah. But no, I truly, I can very confidently say that I draw in very high quality people in my life because I don't entertain anything that's low vibration, low quality, not doesn't bring me the joy in life that I want. And some of that is just like age and wisdom and like no time for bullshit, right? But I do think it plays a huge role, and I'm very fortunate that I can say that the people that I surround myself with also call me on my shit if I am holding on to an identity, right? If I say something, the people that are closest to me will be like, hold on a second, right? And they know to call me out, like, you don't have to be that way. You're not always like that, right? So I think now, I'll say that with the caveat that you cannot expect people to evolve with you and at the same time and at the same pace as you, but it's important to have that awareness of yourself and your own thoughts, but also the way that other people perceive you and the way that other people support you too.
And if you don't have those people who are naturally encouraging you in that way in your life, like you can hire people to help you with that, or you can find mentors that are in that direction that you want to be. Like, I can't tell you the amount of newer trainers that have reached out and that I reached out to when I was a new trainer, because they were people that I admired and I just wanted to learn. Like, usually, if you're coming at somebody with really good intentions like that, they're open to help and share. With our clients, again, it's like natural for me to notice when somebody picks themselves apart because I've trained myself to not do that for so many years. But there's other stuff like you and Emily, our friend who's a yoga teacher, like you guys call me out all the time if I apologize for something when I didn't do something wrong. And it's like, oh wow, I didn't realize I did that much until I had an external person say, "Do you realize like you're apologizing for something?" And I'm like, I always have this underlying like, "Oh no, I don't want anyone to be mad at me." Um, as a coach, the people who hire us are getting some of that from us every single week where we're reprogramming their brains to realize like, hey, notice how we just spoke about ourselves in this scenario. Let's try to shift it to this or that. Especially if you have kids, guys. Like I've worked with so many women who talk about their teenage daughters and how they hate how they are insecure and they have body image issues and this and that. And in the same breath, I hear those women pick apart, oh, I hate this little flab under my arm, or oh, I really wish I lose 5 pounds. And I'm like, ooh, hey, gently, I need to talk to you about this because where is she getting this language from, right? She's watching her mom talk to herself like that in the mirror. So it's just the way we speak to ourselves is important, and that can help shift your identity over the course of time. Even if you don't believe it yet, maybe write it down, journal the things that hold you back, your thoughts that hold you back, and then write some sort of affirmative statement that counters that argument. And again, this applies to fitness and health stuff, but it applies to everything. Like I'll give an example of myself. When I started doing this, I thought it was so cheesy because I'm like, okay, I'm going to write some affirmations. For me, I had some sort of like negative bias about people who want financial success must be superficial or have bad motives. Where it's like, well, I can also really help people and do what I love and be really good at it and do it with integrity and make a career out of it and build wealth for myself. And shifting and cutting off that like negative association allows me to do that and flourish and not become the thing I was scared of at all.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's this like identity, and I do think a lot of those identities we hold from childhood also, right? Especially when it comes to like money and stuff, like the way that your parents live and spend money, and like that sticks with you. I'm very like YOLO spender. I could die tomorrow, so I don't need to save money. I'm kidding. I have a savings and investments and all of those things, but no, it does, like it, and it spills over into other areas of your life. So in terms of, there's a book that I think a lot of people are aware of. If you're not, I think it's a great one to start with on this topic. There are a lot of books surrounding this topic that I can recommend, but I send a book called Atomic Habits to all of our clients when they start our program. And this is basically like an excerpt from Atomic Habits, which is by James Clear. And it talks about building lasting habits. And essentially, he says that the key to building these habits that last is focusing on creating a new identity first, right? So your current behaviors, and I kind of talked about this, are just a reflection of your current identity. And he said, what you do now is a mirror image of the type of person that you believe that you are, right? Whether it's conscious or subconscious. And Jess talked about this. So he basically said there are 3 layers to make a change. So first, changing your outcomes, right? This is like what everybody does. This is layer number 1, which is concerned with changing your results, like losing weight, right? So most of the goals that you set are probably associated with this first level of change. But the second layer, like we talked about, are being inputs or changing your process, right? So changing your habits and your symptom or your systems, like implementing a new routine or meditating regularly, right? So habits that you build are at the second layer, but the third deepest layer and the most overlooked is changing your identity. So that's concerned with changing your beliefs, the way that you view the world, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others, which I could talk about too with bodybuilding. Like I used to heavily judge other people and their appearance based on the world that I was wrapped up in, right? I only saw these lean competitors that we lived at the gym and we didn't eat pizza and whatever. And I judged other people for not living that way. And obviously that was an identity that I was very happy to release. And I don't have those thoughts at all anymore, but it's so overlooked, and you don't even realize that you're doing those things a lot of the times. And actually, this is like kind of a side note, but it goes really well with this. Something that I did recently, a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine, was we said, okay, we're going to have one day of no complaints. You can't say anything negative. You cannot complain about anything in your whole day. I swear to God, by lunchtime, I was like, what the fuck? No one, like, does anyone even want to be around me? I cannot believe how many times I went to say something negative or went to text something for validation from somebody else about how negative and awful it was. And I was like, fuck, like, that's such terrible energy. So, like, it's those little things that, like, you create awareness around them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pull back on that a little bit. Now, I love a good, like, shit talking session. I love to, like, vent sometimes to my friends. And it doesn't mean you can't do that. It just means, it's like good to be aware of that in your identity and those things that you do and the things that you believe. But anyway, the beliefs, the assumptions, the biases that you hold are associated with this third, deeper layer of changing your identity, right? So outcomes are about what you get, processes are about what you do, and identity is about what you believe surrounding all of that.
And
So I
I
think,
very much believe if you start with the process part,
yeah,
over time, we see this with our clients all the time. Over time, your identity changes because you are proving to yourself and you're showing up for yourself every single day with these new systems and processes that eventually become inherent habits.
yeah. We have a client who's been with us for a little over 2 years, and it's so funny. I remember she had a work from home job, and when she started with us, she averaged like 3,000 to 4,000 steps a day. And she messaged me a few months ago, a little before her 2-year anniversary with us, and she was like, "I can't believe that I am just someone that walks 10,000 steps a day." Like she's like, "I don't think about it. I don't. It's not intentional. I don't set alarms for steps anymore." She's like, "I just know how it feels, and it's just part of my day to get up and take a walk, to go take the dogs for a walk, to do an evening walk, to take step breaks during my workday." And I was like, how cool is that? Like, those are the kind of wins that you want to see, right? Because she's not tied to 10K steps a day like most people are. It's just, that's just
This is
what
who I am now. Yeah,
yeah.
I have the couple that I coach that together, they're doing such a great job, but they've joked about that where they'll say like, do you remember before this program, the stuff we used to pack for lunch? And like, I can't believe I'm willingly bringing broccoli with my lunch to work. Like they would have never eaten vegetables before. And they're like, I feel so good. They're sending me pictures of, look how many colors on my plate. And I'm like, this is cool because they're not doing it. Again, now they're doing it because they feel so good, not because they think I better get some veggies in. It's like, nope, this is now their life.
And they're also celebrating it, which is so cool.
Yes,
Like,
together.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
a
Yeah.
supportive husband on a
Power
fitness journey is
couple.
nothing better. Nothing better.
Yeah.
Shout out,
So
David.
the results come based on that shift in your identity, right? Not the motivation, not the commitment to the result. We talked about this, but motivation is fleeting, and your current identity just isn't committed to the behaviors required to get that result or the outcome that you desire, right? So those focusing on those processes and having more identity-based goals, right, which is kind of how we're reverse engineering from that outcome that we want, right? That's going to develop more consistency and help you evolve into just a better version of yourself. And that new and improved version of yourself holds you to that higher standard that we talked about setting, right? The version of yourself that doesn't need motivation because, like these clients, it's just part of who you are. And that's when you start to see that in yourself, that's the win, in my opinion. And you're going to get all the outcomes and the results at that point anyway, because you're showing up as a totally different person. And, there are clients who, and I'm not like putting this out there into the universe that this is a thing we do, but there are definitely a handful of clients that have cut off certain people in their lives and gotten out of toxic relationships and set boundaries at work or gotten new jobs because they're like, fuck this, this is not worth my time and my energy. Like, and they don't realize it, but I'm like screaming inside because I'm like, gosh, it took a couple of weeks or months or whatever, right? But they started to like value themselves and hold themselves to a higher standard because they've shown up consistently and they committed to something and they feel more confident. And those are really cool wins too. And it doesn't mean like don't go like run and like cut your friends off or like break up with somebody tomorrow, but it's just really cool when they start to kind of see their own worth and show up as their new identity, and they're like, this doesn't align with my new identity and who I am anymore.
And a lot of times as you begin to figure out who is it that you want to be, like, and again, you can do vision boards, you can journal about this, whatever, but like envision like Jessie 2.0, Jill 2.0, like what's that girl doing every day? What would
Yeah.
my perfect day look like? Would I be exercising or would I be coming home and sitting on the couch and watching TV for 2 hours? Like, would I be playing outside with my kids? What does it look like? Once you figure out what your values are and who that person is that you want to be, naturally some of those relationships are going to fall off. Like I have some friends where if the conversations are primarily gossip or complaining about other people, like we just naturally don't stay in touch that much because they don't get what they want when they text me complaining about somebody. Because usually I'm like, okay, like I'm not feeding, I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like for so long I just want to be nice to other people. So and it's like that's not who I want to be. Know who you're going to be and stick to those values and keep, again, I think journaling is a great tool because you can continue to remind yourself of that vision of who you're becoming.
Mhm.
And once you become that person, like the people who are more similar to you are going to start surrounding you too. Like you're going to level up in all areas.
Yeah, and actually, and I still do, it's just I haven't done one recently, but when I first got into this space and coaching in this business, I went to a lot of conferences and they were extremely intimidating because I was like, why am I in this room of these people? I am like not on their level. These people make millions of dollars. Like I don't even know what to talk to them about at a table. Like it was very uncomfortable, but I realized that I was slowly like pulling myself up, right? And not financially, just like mentally in the way that I viewed the world. And, there is no like victim mentality in a room like that because you just show up and you do the shit you have to do because they're successful, and that's what successful people do, right? They're like that not because they got lucky, because they show up consistently over time. And I was like, okay, this is like the energy that I need, right? And now like they're very much a good little like dopamine hit, but I realized that my circle started to change and it kind of shrunk and it evolved, and as I evolved, and I think like fitness, this part is often so overlooked, but when you do this the right way and you do focus on the process and the identity shift and you see things through more than a few weeks or a few months, you cannot believe me and that's fine. But when you have that confidence and you not only the confidence because you like look better, feel better, all those things, but because you're keeping these promises to yourself and you're showing up as a better version of you, you are going to thrive and excel in other areas of your life, in your career, financially, in your relationships are going to be better quality. It impacts every area more than anyone can possibly fathom. Because right now, all you can think about is, did that thing that I just ate fuck up my day? Or are my pants going to fit this weekend when I have to go to this event? Or, oh my God, there's a camera here, right? Like, think of how much brain power you are putting towards wanting to see this fucking scale go down. Like, you could take over the world, right? If you stop doing that shit. And I think was chasing a lot of the things that I have now for a really long time, but I didn't get them because I wasn't showing up as this version of me yet. And it took a while for me to like get my head out of my ass in some scenarios, but that's the only way that you get it, right? Is you have to learn those life lessons. You have to evolve. You have to let go of that shit. And it's so funny. If you like go on Pinterest and look up like motivational memes, it's basically like everything that we're saying that I used to like roll my eyes at. And I'm like, oh, like it's not the journey. It's not the destination. It's the journey. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, wait, that's actually like so true though. Like you don't really think about it because you just want to get to the destination. So it's cliche, but it's not about the end result. It's about how you show up in the process, even when it feels hard. That's the thing that makes you more confident. And that's the thing that gets you successful. It's not just getting to the thing as fast as you can. It's all of the learning and the fucking up and the, figuring shit out and problem solving through the processes to get to that point. And there is no end result. Let's be real. Like
No.
you're not ever done.
We make this comparison a lot, and I've heard a lot of other fitness coaches make this comparison, but like if you look at the best of the best in any field, they are practicing the basics over and over and over and over and over. And that's how you become excellent at something. It is not because they are looking for the fanciest way to get there. Those people don't exist, right? Like Michael Jordan is just taking free throws, making layups, do the easy thing over and over and over and over until you're the absolute best at your skill, and then you're going to be successful forever versus trying to find the shortcut, trying to find the fastest way, trying to find the new hot thing. Like those things don't work. There's not shortcuts for success in fitness and health or in other areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, this kind of ties into that, but like to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever it is, and keep it off and feel confident and balance your hormones and all these things. It's not about just doing whatever it takes to lose the weight. Like, yeah, you got to work hard and show up consistently, but it's just about like, you can't just show up and be miserable every day because you're going to burn out and it's not going to last long term. This is like another corny saying, and it's so funny that like I roll my eyes at these things, but it's so applicable. It's like you really do have to like fall in love with and appreciate all of the things that are required of you to get what you want. Like now there are moments where I don't want to work out, or there are moments where I have projects for work that I need to do that I procrastinate immensely, right? Like, and I can recognize that in myself, but you have to like constantly, and that's why like Jess said, journaling is so great. You have to take a step back and be like, okay, let me look at where I am now. Like sometimes we'll do this with clients. Like they're like, I'm not seeing progress. I feel stuck. And I'm like, hold on a second. Let's pull out the day ones really quick. Right. And it's like, look at all that you've accomplished and look how you show up. Look at this version of you that you are. Right. So it's really important to reflect to and check in with yourself along the way, especially if you feel like you're in like a rut, right? Like a mental rut where you're like, I'm burnout. What do I do? What direction am I going? Is this worth it? Those are the times where you need to like pull out that journal and look how far that you've come and look at all those extra things, because falling in love with routine and repetition and getting better at the challenge with yourself, right? Doing the same lifts versus going on YouTube and doing something different because you're bored or you need motivation or whatever. Like that's the shift. That's the pivot right there. That's going to be a game changer for you. It might not be tomorrow or next week or next month. Maybe it's next year. Who knows, right?
If
There's
you're doing it right, it probably won't be next week or next month, right? It's
You
going
might
to
not even
take
notice it happen.
It's right. It's going to take time. And then a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I can't believe all this that I've built. There's another quote in Atomic Habits, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's basically about him talking about you can change your life every single choice. And if you change the direction you're going by 1%, you could go in either direction over the course of a year, 5 years. You're going to land in a totally different destination. So focus on every single small choice each day because they're going to add up over time versus thinking, I got to overhaul it. I got to do 100% right now. It's like, change little things and those things compile and compound. And that's the compound effect. That's another really good book.
Yeah, so
But
great.
those things over the course of your life are going to change the trajectory of your life. Do not discount the little things every single day.
Yeah. And that's really it, right? So if you're like, I want all of the, but I want this, but I want this, but I want to lose weight, but my metabolism sucks. If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, like what do I do? Just reverse engineer, right? Like what are the things that you can do today? What is something small that you can commit to today that you've not been doing? Is it drinking an extra water bottle? Is it taking an extra 500 steps? Is it parking your car at the back of the parking lot instead of the front of it? Is it going to bed 30 minutes early, right? Like it could be such a small thing. Pick one or two, start, be consistent, like relentlessly consistent for the next few weeks. And when you are, don't let yourself miss more than, one day, right, in a row. Right back on if life's going to happen, right? We can't be perfect, but don't let yourself miss more than a day in a row. And if you are consistent with those and you show up, then you stack another one, right? And then you stack another one. Maybe it's an extra water bottle, or maybe it's something totally different, but that's what stacking and layering those habits are, and that's what's going to compound. And they might feel like a little bit of they're not doing a lot right initially, but when you're doing them consistently and then you're stacking and you're stacking, now the impact is getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you're compounding, and then you're going to get there faster, right? But you have to start somewhere, and don't
And
get caught
notice
so far away either.
notice Jill's analogy was like add one water bottle. It wasn't okay, I'm just going to start by working out 7 days a week. Like, that's so silly. We are professionals at this, and I work out 3 to 4 days a week. Okay. If you're working out 0 days a week, maybe it's just go for a walk every day for 5 minutes. Maybe
Mhm.
it's go to the gym 1 day a week. Like, it start small until that becomes normal and then add another thing. Again, it might feel like, well, wait, this isn't enough. That's because you're comparing it to unrealistic expectations. And if you hire a professional to help you, if you don't know where to get started, if you don't know what's realistic, hire a coach that's really good. Hire a therapist. Hire somebody who can give you tangible tools that are appropriate for you and where you are. Like, a good coach should meet you where you are. If you hire somebody and they give you stuff that is completely all or nothing or unrealistic, they're not probably very experienced or skilled in actually helping people with long-term change. They might be a personal trainer who gets nice before and after pictures in 3 months, and then they never hear from the person again, right? The people who
Yeah.
are doing this really, really good, it's kind of boring. It's kind of redundant, and it's going to feel like, oh, well, this is just a little bit of change at a time. Like, that means that that person is probably pretty skilled and experienced in what they're doing for behavior change.
Yeah. So give us your list of like tangible takeaways or inputs that someone could focus on now, which we kind of just started
Okay.
with just some
I
little.
think we've kind of ended many episodes, I think, with this exact same list. This is how we
I
start with
like
a lot of
it.
our clients. So some tangible takeaways. One, if you're the person who's hardcore already with protein and macros and body build, like if you're that person who's hardcore, I would say shift your focus to a skill or like a performance type thing, getting really good at a power lift, becoming more mobile, your speed, something like that. For everybody else in the general population, here's what we want you to focus on. One, get stronger. Again, if you're currently working out 0 days a week, maybe that just means 1 or 2 days a week of resistance training. Two, add protein. Three, add whole foods and less processed, colorful foods. So we are adding more meat and we are adding things that look like the plant that they came from, not processed versions of plants. Four, add movement or steps, like dance in your kitchen for fun, go for walks with your family after dinner. Five, sleep. You need to sleep for your body to recover. That's when our hormones are produced and all the things happen. Sleep, water, and then some sort of wind down or mental health activity. So that does not count scrolling on social media or binge watching TV. That's a stimulation for our brain, even if you feel like it's downtime. So an actual unplug activity, whether it's just playing outside and being present with your family, or whether it's something more active like guided meditation or prayer or yoga, some sort of slow down thing. So add strength, sleep, slow down, add protein, add colorful foods, add daily movement and water. And again, do not do all of them at once, all or nothing. Maybe
Yeah.
pick
One or two.
one and just start it for 3 or 4 weeks. And when it becomes normal, add a second one on and you'll go from there. We also are big on using habit trackers so that you have tangible data so you can compete with you from last week or from last month and just continue to build on that. So you're not going off of how you feel, you're going off of, okay, I said I'm going to do this thing 3 days a week. So I'm going to do it 3 days a week. And then when that becomes normal, maybe I add a fourth day or maybe I add a new habit with it.
Yep. So last two things I want to add to close out this episode are one, if you sometimes getting started can feel like the most overwhelming part. So if you feel overwhelmed by like, what do I start with? What, how do I know what the right thing to do is? How do I know if it's too much? Our Instagrams are in the podcast episode notes. Reach out to us. We have a free Facebook group where we both train in there every single week on different topics. Join that and just binge watch. They're all linked at the top of the page. Whatever it is, reach out. We're happy to help you set those. And then I also had basically the 9 steps to make an identity shift. And they're super simple. I think they would be beneficial to like for each person to like have a copy of if you want them. So for that, just DM me on Instagram and I'll send you the list of those if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, hold on, I want to know like the actual steps. And maybe we'll do another episode on it, but I want to make sure that those are accessible without just having to listen to them, because I think having them written and in front of you is important to pop in your journal and reflect on or whatever it is. But either way, all of our stuff's in the podcast episode notes. Reach out to us. But I hope that was helpful. I feel like I love this topic so much, and we could probably talk about this for honestly hours. But I think that's all we have for today's episode. Are we good? Are we done?
We're good. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Bye, guys.